Have you ever wondered what happens in the mind of a narcissist when you walk away? Do they feel the sting of your absence? Or does their mask of indifference hide the emptiness inside? For anyone who has dealt with a narcissist, these questions are haunting. You gave so much of yourself, your time, energy, and love, only to feel discarded and unappreciated. But here's the twist: behind their cold facade, narcissists often wrestle with feelings they can't admit to themselves, let alone anyone else. So do they care that you're no longer with them? Stick around, because this discussion will unravel the layers of their emotional world, showing how they cope, or fail to cope, when you leave their lives. This video isn't just about understanding the narcissist, it's about empowering you. By the end, you'll gain insight into their inner turmoil, their attempts to fill the void, and the steps you can take to heal and move forward. Don't miss a moment of this deep dive into the psyche of the narcissist. But before we begin, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more insightful content, and share it with anyone who might benefit from this discussion. Let's get started. Narcissists live in a world meticulously constructed to revolve around their need for control, validation, and admiration. Every interaction, every relationship, is carefully orchestrated to sustain their fragile sense of superiority. When you were part of their life, you played a crucial role in this dynamic. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, you became a source of emotional energy that fed their ego and soothed the insecurities they so desperately sought to hide. Your attention, affection, and even your frustration were all forms of supply that kept their sense of self inflated. But what happens when you're no longer there to play that role? What happens when the steady stream of validation you provided suddenly disappears? Initially, they might seem indifferent or even relieved by your absence. They may act as though losing you has had no impact on them at all, putting on a mask of apathy or even smug satisfaction. But this facade hides a deeper truth. Your absence creates a ripple in the carefully controlled environment they've constructed. It leaves a mark, a void, that they cannot easily ignore. While they may pretend to move on effortlessly, the reality is that your departure unsettles them in ways they are often unwilling to admit, even to themselves. At the core of their existence lies a dependency on narcissistic supply, the emotional energy they extract from others to maintain their inflated sense of self. It's not just about admiration or praise. It's about using others to prop up the fragile identity they've built. When you're gone, that supply is abruptly cut off, forcing them to confront an emptiness they've been running from their entire lives. This isn't an ordinary emptiness. It's a deep, gnawing void that no amount of external validation or new sources of supply can truly fill. It's the kind of emptiness that drives their relentless pursuit of control, attention, and admiration. The cruel irony is that the very person they devalued and discarded is often the one whose absence they feel the most acutely. Your presence provided them with something unique, a sense of stability and affirmation that they struggled to replicate. You might wonder why, if they truly felt your absence so deeply, they didn't value you while you were still in their life. The answer lies in their inability to process emotions in a healthy, meaningful way. Narcissists are masters of deflection, avoiding their own pain by projecting blame onto others. They lack the emotional depth to fully appreciate the connections they have, often viewing relationships through a lens of utility rather than mutual care or love. When you leave, they don't interpret it as the loss of a meaningful bond. Instead, they perceive it as a personal failure, a crack in their carefully curated image of dominance and control. This is why their initial reaction to your departure might not be sadness or remorse, but instead anger, indifference, or even a frantic attempt to replace you with someone else. These responses are defense mechanisms designed to shield them from the painful truth that your absence has left a void they can't easily fill. Their attempts to move on quickly, whether through new relationships or other means of distraction, are not about finding happiness or closure. These actions are a desperate bid to avoid facing the vulnerability your departure has exposed. Replacing you is not about finding someone better or more compatible. It's about regaining the control and supply they feel they've lost. But no matter how quickly they try to fill the gap, they will inevitably feel the sting of your absence. The new sources of validation they seek will never quite measure up, because those connections lack the depth and understanding you once provided. It's natural to question whether they miss you for who you are, or if they simply miss the control they had over you. The distinction is important because narcissists often conflate love with power. Their feelings are not rooted in genuine affection or emotional connection. Instead, they are tied to how you made them feel about themselves. They miss the way you elevated their sense of importance, the way your attention and energy bolstered their fragile self-image. They don't miss you in the way a healthy person would miss a loved one. They don't long for your companionship, your laughter, or your unique qualities. Instead, they long for the emotional leverage they had over you, the ability to manipulate your feelings and dictate the terms of your relationship. Your absence forces them to confront their own vulnerabilities in ways they find deeply unsettling. Without you, they are left to grapple with the insecurities and fears they work so hard to suppress. This is a reality they deeply resent, not because they miss you as a person, but because they miss the power and control you represented. Their world, so dependent on the contributions of others, becomes a colder and emptier place when you are no longer there to play your part. And while they may never openly acknowledge this, the impact of your absence will linger, challenging the very foundation of the world they've built around their need for validation and control. As time passes, even the most self-absorbed narcissist begins to notice the cracks in the facade they work so hard to maintain. They won't readily admit it, even to themselves, but a subtle awareness starts to creep in. The carefully constructed illusion of their superiority and control begins to falter, as they realize their efforts to replace you aren't delivering the satisfaction they anticipated. Despite their best attempts to find someone new to fill the role you once held, no one else can replicate the unique way you supported them, tolerated them, and endured their behavior. You were not just another person in their life. You were someone who unknowingly provided stability in their chaotic inner world, someone who filled the gaps in their carefully curated image. This realization, however, does not stem from a place of love or genuine regret. Instead, it arises from their frustration at failing to find someone else who fits so seamlessly into their web of control. The truth is, narcissists are endlessly searching for validation and emotional fuel to sustain their fragile egos. When you leave, they lose a significant source of this supply, and while they may try to downplay the impact of your absence, it disrupts the balance of their world. You were, in many ways, an integral part of their strategy for maintaining control over their narrative and those around them. Now that you're gone, they're left scrambling to rebuild their carefully structured reality. But each attempt falls short. The new people they bring into their lives may initially seem like perfect replacements, but over time, these relationships fail to provide the same depth of benefit that yours did. They find themselves dissatisfied, comparing their new sources of supply to you. Even if they'd never admit it out loud, they begin to realize that what they've lost cannot be easily replaced. So, do narcissists care that you're no longer in their lives? The answer is both complex and paradoxical. On one hand, they care deeply in the sense that your absence disrupts their plans and unsettles the stability they had relied on. They hate the idea of losing someone who made them feel significant, important, and validated. For them, relationships are not about mutual care or connection, but about power dynamics. Losing you feels like losing control, and that is a loss they resent deeply. On the other hand, they don't care in the way you might hope or expect. Their care is entirely self-serving, rooted in their insatiable need for supply, rather than any genuine affection or remorse. They miss the utility you provided, not the person you are. This distinction is vital to understand as you navigate the aftermath of your relationship with them. As you move forward, it's essential to remember that your worth was never tied to how the narcissist treated you. Their inability to love, appreciate, or respect you says far more about their own limitations and emotional immaturity than it does about you. Narcissists are trapped in a cycle of self-interest and manipulation, unable to form the kind of deep, meaningful connections that healthy relationships require. By walking away, you have broken free from this toxic cycle. You've reclaimed your autonomy and taken the first, and most crucial, step toward healing and self-reclamation. The narcissist, on the other hand, will continue to grapple with their own emptiness. While they may project an image of confidence and indifference, this is merely a mask to hide the discomfort they feel. Their emptiness is a direct result of their inability to form genuine connections, and it's a burden they will carry long after you've moved on. The void left by your absence is theirs to bear, not yours to fill or fix. By removing yourself from their life, you've not only protected your own well-being, but also given yourself the space to rediscover your worth, free from the distortions of their influence. It's natural to wonder if they regret losing you, but the reality is that their regret, if it exists, will always be tangled in their need for validation and control. They may feel the sting of your absence, but it won't inspire the kind of reflection or change you might hope for. Narcissists are notoriously resistant to self-awareness and accountability. Their focus will remain on finding new sources of supply, even as they quietly recognize that what they had with you was unique. This recognition, however, doesn't equate to remorse. It's simply an acknowledgement of a loss they can't fully understand or appreciate. Your decision to walk away from the narcissist's grip was a courageous act of self-preservation. It marked the beginning of a journey toward healing and self-discovery. The narcissist may feel an emptiness without you, but that emptiness belongs to them, not you. It is a reflection of the life they've chosen to lead, a life devoid of true connection and empathy. You, on the other hand, have the opportunity to build a life rooted in authenticity, respect, and love, free from the shadows of their manipulations. This is your time to reclaim your story and live it on your terms, knowing that your worth was never defined by their inability to see it. Thank you for spending time with me today as we explored this deeply personal and empowering topic. Remember, the narcissist's inability to appreciate your worth doesn't define you. Your strength lies in your ability to recognize toxic behavior, walk away, and rebuild your life on your terms. They may feel the void of your absence, but you are so much more than the role they tried to confine you to. If this video resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more insights and discussions. Share this with someone who might need encouragement and validation in their journey. Together, we can create a community of support and empowerment. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.